everything is going to end. Like, your entire thing is over. It's all over. You're done.
It's interesting to think about the watch collection, because I'm thinking, like, I collected things growing up. I was a collector. Like, when I was real younger, I collected, even before coins. So I collected rocks, and then I collected coins, like foreign coins, and that just meant, like, when my mom's friends went to foreign countries, they'd be like, hey, like, bring Sam back a coin, please.
Yeah.
And then I was maybe 12 or 13, and I started collecting autographs, and that was the first, like, that was the first time I really scaled it.
Scaled your collecting business?
Yeah, so, like, I, like, filled my room with autographs.
Wow.
Me and my mom would, like, go outside the entrance. We figured out, like, there's, like, wherever the players walk out of the stadium after, there's these lines that form of people that are looking to get autographs, so we would do that, and we just, like, it was, like, 3 or 4 years of, like, this was my main thing, and,
that's so crazy. So,
yeah,
like,
and then I feel like I got to college, and then it just transformed into, like, entrepreneurship. But instead of, like, you hear a lot of stories where it's like, I was selling things my whole life, and I feel like I don't know, I think you kind of were selling things, and I would sell things.
You mean
here
like
and
the
there.
entrepreneur story who's like lemonade stand to like the baseball card story, that kind of whole script?
It's interesting to think about, what do you do when you have the baseball cards? Do you sell them, or do you, like, keep them?
Yeah. I didn't have the story of, like, really being entrepreneurial like that early. I mean, I wish I could really look back, because, like, my mom always says I had sort of seemings of becoming an entrepreneur. But no, to tie up on the collecting thing, like, the watches, it's just so cool. Like, I've actually been kind of, like, not on a kick of watches for the past, like, 2 years. Like, all that collection is the same. Like, I haven't added or subtracted anything from the collection in, like, over 2 years probably, just because I've been focused on other stuff, just caught up in whatever. But when you go deep into it, there's just such a world of it. I mean, there are vintage watches that are completely priceless with the history and the way they aged, and there's a massive importance to originality. Like, you don't want a watch that the hands have been replaced or the dial has been redone, or, you know, it's been even polished. For example, if you get like an early Rolex Submariner, everyone knows what a Rolex. If you don't know it by name, you've seen a Rolex Submariner. It's like the quintessential watch that somebody gets when they want to, like, spend a little bit on a watch. If you get like an early Rolex Submariner, and you're getting it based on patina and age and the right period and original and stuff like that, even having the watch polished devalues it, because they want to have the original little bezel where it's slightly brushed on one side and then the little bezel is polished from the factory, and if it's been polished ever, you lose that bezel is no longer as sharp. Now you don't have the contrast of the brushed next to the polished edge. Like, these tiny little details, it all affects the value.
Yeah, I guess my mind has just been on crypto a lot, but, like, just hearing you talk about the way people value scarcity and all of these, like, ways, I just know that this is going to be the same thing that happens on the internet, where, like, now we're going to have the equivalent of, like, there was only, like, this much of this crypto made. It was made in, like, 2009, and they're never making more, and, like, this is one of the originals, and it's, like, verifiable.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, yeah, I have one of those.
Is it the same when you can create new crypto? I mean, I guess the comparable in watches would be that you could make a new watch brand and all that stuff, but the new watch brands are fundamentally not as interesting as the old watches.
Do you think it's because they're fundamentally not as scarce? And it's also
well, here's the thing: is that there are plenty of watches that are scarce and worthless. It's like there has to be a combination of design, engineering, and history, kind of like all coming together, or else it is worthless. Like, there's plenty of watches that are old and belong in the trash, basically. But then there's others that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that somebody bought for $53 in 1957.
And it has a lot to do with like the story behind it.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is also a case for interesting thing about Bitcoin.
Sure, there's story there.
Like all of the other ones, like they have founders, and Bitcoin is like, yes,
Bitcoin
some
has
guy
a story.
just like
Yeah.
released a paper and like
but does
we
like
don't know who he is, or maybe we do now. I'm not
I don't know. I'm like does I don't know, does Verge have a story? Like, I don't know, probably not.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, I don't know, but it'd be hard to imagine that it's as compelling as like inventing the entire industry.
Bitcoin has a story. I can definitely see that argument with Bitcoin. You're totally right. It's the first. It's got that element of mystery. No one knows who created it.
It's like people talk about Facebook and MySpace, but because it's currency, it's just kind of a different animal, because like you can't like own one of the only MySpaces ever, and like MySpace didn't invent the internet, and
yeah. It is
kinda
not
how I see it.
comparable. And those are like, I mean, I guess you could argue it's the same as Bitcoin, but MySpace, if nobody's using it, it becomes kind of worthless. But I guess Bitcoin, in theory, could
guess
become
if nobody-
worthless. Could become.
yeah.
It is possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but
the argument is just
yeah.
probably people are going to be using it,
Yeah, I mean,
because to use it just means to hold it.
yeah. I mean, I just bought some. Thanks for making me think that it's probably time to buy some more, because I traded all the way to zero and then I have to buy more, which I'm not gonna do anymore. I've learned my lesson like 8 times now.
Hold.
So yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I don't even want to. But yeah, you should get a watch.
I remember we talked about this, and I was like, I just don't know if I want to have like the time in front of my eyes the entire day.
I totally get that, and it's funny because we see so in the same way about this stuff. I don't have a clock in here at all. Like, we have no clock.
Which really changes the vibe.
Yeah.
It's like,
And this sounds so funny, but I rarely look down at my watch for the time, even if I'm wearing one of those vintage watches. Like, I just...
especially if it's analog, you gotta like...
Right, those are... It's analog, and it's more of like... I mean, calling it an accessory makes it sound kind of frivolous, but it kind of is.
It's like a little, like, some kids really love this one blanket, and they're like, I keep this blanket with me.
It's
is
like-
it a little bit of comfort?
It's like, I don't do this, but maybe like with the coin collection, or like with the Memento Mori coin, like some people keep a coin in their pocket, or like they keep a locket or something. Like, I kind of think it's more on par with that than like this constant reminder of time. And at the same time that I don't want to be always reminded of time, I feel like there is a cool sort of metaphor in it of seeing the physical time passing on your wrist is kind of that reminder of time's passing, and get your shit together. Like, so I see both sides. One, I don't like, because you could argue it brings you out of the present. You're thinking what time it is. There was this one day that I was practicing this really well, is I didn't check my phone like at all until I often don't take it off airplane mode, but this day I just didn't even look at it until like, I think it was like 11:30 or something like that. So I literally AM, yeah. So until 11:30 a.m. I did not know what time it was, and it's just funny because like we're so programmed to wake up and be like, what time is it?
What time have I woken up? How much hours of sleep do I get based on how many hours of sleep do I get? How much energy am I going to feel like I have right now?
And it's like, oh, well, it's 9:30, so I need to have coffee now. And then I have to, like, my weird routine of I need to go outside and do this or whatever. But it's like, why not just be like, well, whether it's 8 or 10, do I feel like having coffee? Like, why do we need to have that sort of affirmation of, oh, it's 9:15 a.m.? Obviously, there are utilities to time, though.
Of course, right? Like, here we are having set a time to meet.
Right. And it can be used for good or evil, I suppose. Like, time having overscheduling can pull people out for eternity, out of their present moment, but it also allows progress in the world. I mean, how do they build a bridge if nobody's like, I don't know, like how we most
just
crazy
come
things.
To work when the cement gets here, the cement will get here. You know what? It's already 2 weeks late.
The safety people just haven't showed up yet, but
They're like, look, we have 8 of the 10 pieces for the bridge, and a car would just fall through with 2 pieces missing. So we're just gonna wait and hope that the other 2 show up.
yeah. I mean, time time does have utility, but
Yeah.
it all comes back to like what I guess we've been sort of referring to as intentionalism, I guess. And it's like if you're good with your time, if you have time for the right intent, it's helpful. But if you just get sucked into time and scheduling, then it's just,
And in a sense, it's like we talked about time, but this is something I learned in Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Workweek. But the real thing is attention, because what is time without attention?
sure.
You know.
Yeah.
So attention is what allows us to sort of cash in on the time. So the Jason Fried podcast, I listened to like the last 15 minutes when I was coming here, and one of the quotes that he mentioned at the end, which was interesting, was from Warren Buffett. Maybe you'll remember. It was like, money is what you pay, value is what you get. But it wasn't money is what you pay. It was like,
Ooh, I can't remember. I listened to it a little longer ago, like when it came out. But sounds vaguely familiar.
yeah, I probably botched it, but anyway, I guess the analogy I was making is like, attention is what you pay, value is what you get.
Yeah, you were the first, well, I don't know who said it, but you told me the whole thing about paying attention. I thought that was interesting, because we say pay attention. We don't say like pay time or pay anything else, really. But attention, we say pay. Like, why do we do that? You know, it's like we kind of, language evolved to explain that attention is a resource that we trade.
It is, and yeah, this is, we'll get to like basic attention token probably in a second, because this is why I'm so interested in it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
It's sort of like a resource where it's a choose what you pay. You know, it's like we're at a coffee shop, and there's one of these coffee shops, Metro Cafe in Santa Monica. It's like, choose what you pay. You can pay anything, and it's always like, wait, what? Like, choose what I pay.
Yeah.
But you know,
Do you think that
maybe attention is better, because if you pay more, then you actually get more.
Yeah.
And I think that the issue with it is, if you don't pay enough attention, then you sort of don't get the insight that you should pay attention. Like, you get value from things that you pay attention to by like really focusing. And if you don't have faith that really focusing is gonna like potentially bring something, then it's gonna be hard to do it. So I think like the more, I guess in my life, the more that I've paid attention, I'm like, oh, like there's stuff everywhere that I don't understand, and the only way to understand it is just to pay from this resource, which is attention, which
Right.
we like we kind of like refill the tank every day.
Yeah.
But then over time, if you like live healthy, then you can maybe have a bigger bank of it.
And there are so many paths you can go down with your attention that are useful. And it's like, to me, it blows my mind that some people are like, I don't know, say, think life is boring or something like that. And it's like, it's like you have this set attention.
It's like, what?
It's like, oh, I was just listening
Like,
to,
what?
it was Tom Bilyeu, founder of Quest Nutrition and Impact Theory and all of that. And he wants to live forever. And there's like, I'm probably going to botch this remembering it as well,
Right.
but we need like more like notes or something.
Francis.
Yeah. Okay, what was it? Like, he was saying sort of the counter argument to living forever was like, you'll get bored or something like that. Like, you'll get bored of living. And he said that there's kind of two camps. If people could live forever, there'd be two camps. There'd be the people that would just decide to do nothing since there's no urgency, and there'd be the other people that would do everything because there's no urgency to finish. For example, you want to go learn how to like paint for 3 years and become a master painter. You go do that.
You would.
You want to go, you get interested in, I don't know, the types of paper that notebooks are made out of, and you go to Japan and you go to you start making your own notebooks for 5 years until you're
Oh my God,
until you're the
imagine
best.
what Tim Ferriss would do.
Yeah, until you're the best notebook maker in the world. Whereas right now, it's like me sitting here. It's like, I'm sure there's a whole world of nuance in notebooks. I know there is. I know that you could devote a lifetime to notebooks, but I'm not going to do that because I need to decide where to pay my attention. And so if you could live forever, then it would just be a constant drawing into whatever is currently interesting to me.
So what camp is Tom Bilyeu in? Does he want to live forever?
He wants to live forever.
But why?
Because he would master everything he wants to master. Whereas right now we live...
But why?
I mean, that's a good question. You'd have to ask him. He could articulate his thoughts better than I can articulate his thoughts. But he had a really good argument. And it was just that he wants to do as much as he can, which I think I can relate to. And I think it's hard to put into words. But it's just that everything is so interesting and there's so much to everything. And I wish I could explore all those things. I'm kind of speaking as me and what I would assume he would say is like, there's all these things that I wish I could explore that I am simply not going to have time to go into.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, here we are, and we could have been anywhere else, but we chose to be here.
Yeah.
If we were both living forever, it would be like, yeah, we also will go everywhere else, and everywhere becomes much more meaningless because it's not scarce.
But I feel
like if they increased the amount of Bitcoins from 21 million to infinity, then I'd be like, I don't care about the Bitcoins.
Sure, but life is just interesting, and you would find things like if I right now cast a spell on you and you're gonna live forever, I don't think Sam sitting in front of me would just be like, you know what, I'm just not gonna do anything with my life because I'm gonna live forever.
All right, let's try.
Do you think you would personally?
Really, I'm gonna pretend that you cast the spell. Okay, so I'm gonna live forever. It just sounds like such a nightmare.
This is something we could talk for 12 million hours. Okay, let me clarify one
12
thing.
million.
Well, you've got the time, right?
You know what? I have the time. I'm just not sure that you're gonna make it to the end of the conversation.
How many years is 12 million hours?
It's probably like more than a lifetime. At least.
Sounds like more than a lifetime.
Yeah.
Ooh, I saw a quote.
If 10,000, because I remember once doing the math on like, okay, 10,000 hours to be an expert, and yeah, it's probably like 1,000. It's probably like 300 lifetimes would be my guess. But it's definitely more than one.
Yeah. I saw this tweet. I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was somebody I followed. It was like a retweet or whatever. But it was how we have such a poor comprehension of how much different a million is from a billion.
Oh, I saw that too.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was because I think I retweeted it too. Or maybe you saw it somewhere else. But yeah, and it was just very interesting to think about because we all know that a billion is 1,000 million, but it was saying that a million seconds is 17 days and a billion seconds is 31 years, which just seems dramatically different.
Yeah, and it's also sort of like that example specifically like really pulls at the ideas of it. You know what was a really interesting stat I heard? If you took all of the money that Apple has in the bank, which is like well over 100 billion, I'm pretty sure, and if you put it into $1 bills and stacked them up, then I believe you could go from here to the moon and back 13 times.
I don't... Does that sound believable?
Well, it was maybe it was like 100 times, maybe it was like something else, but I'm pretty sure it was like 13 times. And it doesn't sound believable, but it's...
I mean,
it's
the moon
true, yeah.
The moon is very far and paper is very thin, but 100 billion is a lot.
Well, think about it. If we stacked 100 ones is about like a little under an inch. So then 1,000 is like, let's say, a foot. So then 10,000 is like
10 feet.
The height of this room. And then
so
10,000 times 100 is a million. So then the height of this room times 100, that's like maybe the Empire State Building is a million. And then you multiply the Empire State Building by 1,000 to get 1 billion.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So then the Empire State Building up 1,000 times. So let's multiply it by 10 first. So up 10 times, then it's like this like giant 10x Empire State Building. then you multiply that thing by 100 to get $1 billion. So this is $1 billion stacked up. Is like who knows? Maybe we're poking into space at this point.
Yeah.
But then if you like Apple has over like maybe like who knows, maybe 300 billion in the bank. I forget the
Right.
exact number, but I don't know. I think it was right.
It sounds it could be. I'm curious, but
So now we've hit the moon at 26 billion, and if we come,
let's invest in Apple coin. Why do you think there have been no big players in the coin space? Like, why is there no Amazon coin, Tesla coin, Google coin? Did I say Apple coin? Yeah.
I mean, there's a few things. Number one, like Facebook has mentioned they're thinking about this, so I think it's very likely they'll launch something. Maybe they'll be the first. Who knows? Tesla could launch something too. It's like you could plug your car into another Tesla, and it takes charge from that Tesla, and
Whoa.
it just automatically charges your Tesla coin or something.
The whole thing could be based on Tesla coin. I mean, like,
Yeah, you
the
could
energy
pay-
could be measured in Tesla coin. I mean, they actually have their own integrated system of like financial exchange, because I think that's kind of where
And,
a
like-
lot of the coins become bullshit. Is it's like, well, that doesn't need a coin, right? That's kind of like the argument of, oh, I'm launching a new shit coin, whatever.
Well, it's like the classic thing though. Like there are a lot of coins that don't have value, but by focusing on these coins that don't have value and being like these coins don't have value, then we're not focusing on the ones that do. Like I do think that it's probably most of the coins are gonna fail.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like, that doesn't, to me, that seems healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't have, like, there's no, it's, to me, I'm only just starting to think about crypto more again, thanks to
Yeah.
you, because I kind of definitely took like,
Same here, by the way.
I took
Only
a
the last few
while-
months I've been thinking about it more.
yeah, I took a while like off, so I'm rusty on a lot of this, but a lot of my thoughts when I was more deep into it was like, it just doesn't make sense for you to have a separate type of currency for every interaction in your life. You know, what if every time you went to, you know, the supermarket, you had to use supermarket coin, and to go get gas, you had to use gas coin, and to go on Amazon, you had to use Amazon coin, and it's just like you're constantly converting everything into everything else just to use another service. Whereas right now, you just spend your dollars everywhere.
But you're creating these like imaginary hassles in your mind that might not actually be the case.
Maybe there's a way of it just
It's
being
like,
very
but
seamless.
now I have to convert my Amazon coin to gas coin. Like it might
It might be automatic.
These details might be kind of different from what it ends up looking like.
But if it integrates so seamlessly, then why are they separate to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to? Maybe
Yeah,
it's a good time to talk about the basic attention token,
Yeah.
which I'm really interested in.
And I've been wanting to hear your deep dive into it as well.
Sounds good.
Because I remember seeing it when I was day trading and losing all my money. I remember seeing it on the list and being like, oh, that seems interesting. But I remember when you told me about IOTA, and then it popped like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, like that's an interesting one too, just in the concept, and like who knows if these things will. But anyway, so basic attention token is a web browser that I'm reading from my article notes, but it's a web browser that blocks ads and trackers by default. It's more private, more secure, and faster. I'll put the notes away. The guy who, I'm totally wrong. That I wasn't describing basic attention tokens. So there's this company Brave that makes an internet browser, and they basically on Google Chrome or other ones you can install ad block and block ads. But the thing that's unique about them is that they block ads by default, and they also block different trackers on websites, like third-party cookies, which is basically like a tracker that's from another website. More or less,
Follows
they
you
block
around.
ads and trackers, and which is great on its own. It's like fuck yeah, but then in addition, it's like it turns out blocking these ads and trackers makes the thing load a lot faster. So it loads faster. It's like so delightful. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is faster, but also it's because they block the ads. Like fuck.
That is a interesting win-win situation.
Yeah.
Like,
and not
how
only that,
silly is it that our phones are less efficient because of ads? It's weird.
they estimate that people pay up to like it was like $24 or $26 per month just for the data to load ads and trackers.
Like based on their plans on their
yeah,
phones.
because that obviously counts towards your data plan.
Whoa. That's interesting.
So not only that, Brave, it saves people money on their data plans. It makes it faster. It makes the whole thing more
So
efficient.
it's just all around like a great thing for the world.
I
pretty
think
much.
so. And not only that, but like, okay, like this is a concept that's interesting, but for this company to do it, like one of the things I'm putting at the end of the article is like, it says something that they called this company Brave. They made the logo a lion. Like,
That is cool.
they're trying to they're really, it seems like they're really like on a mission. I'll even read, there was like a section from the jobs part of their website. Let me see if I can find it pretty quick.
Thank you to Brave for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, so on the jobs section of Brave's website, this is a quote from it. If your passion is fighting for users, questioning the status quo, and working with a big brain, high energy team, join us. It's time to fix the web together. And like, that's not crazy revolutionary, but it's just like, seems to me that they really care. And like, I don't know, like you use this product and it's like, fuck yeah, like a company that cares a little bit more about me than the last browsers. And like there's even like there's private tabs with Tor, and just like for them to put that into the browser, that is Brave. Like no other all-purpose browser has had Tor directly built in.
Yeah. It's cool. I'm going to play with the browser more. I downloaded it when you told me. I played with it a little and it did seem very quick.
Yeah.
I just like default to Chrome, but I'm going to play with it more. Are you
Awesome.
kind of using it as your...
So I use it probably 90% of the time, I would say, because of the speed. And the other 10%, it's like sometimes a website like won't work fully optimally because something that Brave blocked was needed for the functionality. And there's like
any
settings.
example come to mind? Like,
I think Google Analytics might not work, and I guess that kind of makes sense because that's like literally a tracking tool.
yeah.
But Google Analytics, what else? Like I wrote that like a custom Chrome extension for Binance to be able to like see my crypto in dollars.
I need that, by the way.
Yeah, I'll get it to you. And so I still use Chrome to check that because I want to be able to see it in dollars. I don't know. Like if you
minor
wanted to use
stuff.
Jungle Scout,
Oh, yeah.
it's not on Brave yet.
Sure. But that's only on Chrome, I guess, so...
Yeah, so there's a few things, but
Those
more
are
or
minor.
less, like, even, I think it even says something, because I recommended this to a bunch of people, and they all tried it out, and, like, everyone sort of had, this is the most common complaint, like, sometimes it just doesn't work, and there's, like, they'll have settings in the top right, but it's, like, there's, like, these 3 little toggles with, like, 2 or 3 options each, and it's kind of confusing and, like, a hassle to toggle with them, so I'll just use a different browser, but it's telling that people still, like, use it. I still use it, my friends still use it, even though it's not fully working. Like, fuck, like...
Because there's so many advantages.
And it's only gonna get better. And did I show you their, you might have seen, like, their user growth graph?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you haven't? So they release these updates publicly, and I graphed it, and I guess this won't go on the podcast, but you see that?
I'm looking at a graph, and it looks like it's increasing very fast.
Yeah, so... that's yeah. They launched in January 16, and then by last December 17, they had 1 million users, which is I think impressive. But then even more impressive is between last December and this July. In July, they were at 3 million users, so they've tripled. And
Wow.
I don't know, like even like Tim Ferriss gave them like a very warm shout out in a recent 5 Bullet Friday email.
Oh.
I didn't show you that either.
I don't think I've seen... it's weird because you ever like see something in passing and then later it becomes your focus and then you wonder if that was the thing you saw before? Because I remember seeing like I think it was an ad for a browser like a month ago, and I feel like it might have been this. Have they ran any ads, like paid?
I'm not sure.
Because I remember seeing an ad for a browser, thinking it was really well done.
I bet it
Might have been that.
And then also, not only that, but...
Should I close this? The noise.
Yeah, let's close it. But the reason I even started looking into this was because Coinbase made the announcement. We're thinking about adding 5 assets to Coinbase: Cardano, Basic Attention Token, Stellar, Lumen, Zcash, and 0x. And I looked at all of them, and Brave was... Basic Attention Token by Brave was the smallest one. So I just and I kind of already knew what the other ones were, and
Cardano was the one when I was going deeper into it that I was like mind blown by. Like I watched a ton of videos with the guy behind it, and it just seemed interesting. It just seemed so thought out, as if that one really could be the one that would have uses everywhere. It was just so.
I don't know too much.
I would embarrass myself trying to explain it, but I remember just it really seemed to have the tech and like the minds behind it. Like it was done in such an academic way. Like it wasn't just some dudes. It was very academic. Like every like mathematical equation was like completely proofed by like a board of academics, and just like every single stage of every process they do is like completely vetted and professional. It's interesting.
So yeah, I guess before we move on, I'll kind of explain Basic Attention Token and how it relates to Brave. So basically, this browser, prime in their vision, is putting cryptocurrency. So this is an example of something that's valuable. They're calling it... I'm kind of going off the notes because it is like, that's the issue with these things. Like it is a little bit hard to explain them sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think attention is the most prized asset on the internet. Facebook and Google don't ask you for your money, they ask you for your attention, and that's because they make more money from your attention. Of course, and they basically, Google, I gave an example, like Google, I search on Google car insurance, and then in order to get one click on someone that searched car insurance, these car insurance companies pay $25 to $80 a click. So Google is basically like, oh hey, Geico, you want me to send them your way? Give me $25 to $80 per person, and I'll do that. So the internet has been monetized by these like middlemen. Facebook is a middleman too. So we go to Facebook. Why do we go to Facebook? Because it has really interesting content. So that's probably a few different things. Like groups are really big now. Our friends' posts are like big, but maybe not as they used to be. And then news too. We get news from these websites. So Facebook basically arbitrages this interesting content, and then that's what gets us in the room. And then Facebook sells ads to people. They're like, oh, you want to sell a product to somebody who's interested in this, this, and this? Okay, we'll put your ad in their feed. So that's kind of how they arbitrage it. But I think the news people are kind of getting fucked over right now, because they are like, this stuff is valuable because attention is valuable and people read it and people like to consume content, but this content is only being used to drive people to Facebook, and then Facebook makes the money on the ads, and what Basic Attention Token is aiming to do is to take away the middlemen in a sense, so that if I went to a website, if I read an article, basically wherever my attention is going in the browser, it tracks it. It also, this is what makes it possible with crypto, because it tracks it anonymously, where Brave wouldn't actually know where my attention is going. It's the same technology as like anonymous cryptocurrencies, I'm pretty sure, where they wouldn't know. It's not on their servers. All of the data is stored locally on my machine, but it's like anonymously connected to this whole system. And then they also want to create like an ad network where people can buy ads and have those ads shown, but the whole thing will be anonymous, and like we wouldn't have to trust anyone because the whole project is open source and you can see the code. It just seems like,
it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I fully understand. You explained it really clearly, but I've just
No,
like,
it's hard to explain. Like, this is why I'm struggling so much with the article, because like
yeah. Like I
There's a lot of
fully
angles.
understand how Google or Facebook is the middleman. That makes perfect sense. What I'm struggling with is how you take that out. Like, where does the transaction take place? Like, are you saying that like people are rewarded for quality content directly? In some way?
Yeah. So, and there is like, even I'm still wrapping my mind around this because it is like a big concept, but basically every Brave user of the browser has a BAT wallet in their browser. And depending on the websites that you go to, so say I spend 30% of my time this month on mattloberstein.com, then at the end of the month you would get 30% of my budget. So that's one option. I
So
could
you
also
set
say
a
like, I
budget?
really like Matt, just give him 80% every month no matter
So do
what.
you have to commit to have a budget?
So you could potentially fund it with a crypto wallet with your own money, or what I think might be more likely is that Brave is going to introduce an ad system where they insert the ads and they get the publishers pay Brave to have their ads shown to the users, but in exchange for seeing ads, because users are allowed to opt out, in exchange for seeing ads, users get paid in BAT. And then this BAT would go to the publishers, but then also like it could be used for premium content. For example, I think the way Brave frames it is like, the way they sort of allude to it on their website is if you're reading a premium article, they'll be like, okay, give us 0.3 BAT to read the whole thing. But what I think is a compelling thing is like, okay, if Brave is your browser, if you're paying at least $10 a month, equivalent BAT, then you're like bronze level. And then websites can be like, okay, this articles are only bronze level. Or if a website was really premium, then it'd be like, it's only gold level, and that means that it's $30 a month. And like the browser, I was telling this to Travis and Mark, and they basically were like, oh, so it's like Spotify for an internet browser, where on Spotify, based on who you listen to, they get like a
they
chunk.
get like a royalty based on listens.
Yeah, and
So-
that's kind of, it kind of
Yeah.
made sense that, you know.
It made sense. It's just weird. So, but if you opt out, then you don't get ads and you don't pay anything. And you like it's interesting. It's just like you bypass the whole system. Or
I
like
think
why
that
would
there's
you
just
opt?
like so much incentive there's incentive for users for sure, but I think there's like so much incentives for the publishers. And think about, all right, where are people's attention going? It's going to reading this content. Who makes this content? The people that want to make money from the content. What if they put in the content, hey, like, you've got to start using Brave, like, it's going to help make this stuff better, you're going to be able to get more content.
That sounds like it would work. I feel like it for sure is one of those things that's bubbling up in the world, is that consumers want to see the creators more directly doing okay.
Right.
Like, I think it might have been on the podcast when I was saying the thing about Casey Neistat and everyone getting mad when he first monetized, and how I think that's completely ridiculous. But I think now, like, most, I don't know if I'd even say most, but a lot of people want to see the content that they like be rewarded. So it makes sense. It's going that way. I don't know. I've never used Twitch. I don't know anything about Twitch, but I know that that's how it works. You subscribe to a particular channel, and they get like a monetary value from you every month.
It's like slowly becoming more and more of an attention economy, kind of like
Right.
Gary Vee says.
Yeah. So do you think ads are fundamentally bad?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Because
Like, I saw an ad and I ended up, or actually my my cousin saw an ad, and I randomly happened to be at dinner, and they were like, oh, I saw an ad, like, work in Bali for an island.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I checked it out, and I ended up going to Bali for a month, living with 10 entrepreneurs. Like, a few of them became my really good friends. Like, they lived with me my first month in LA. Like, I haven't, maybe I wouldn't have even ended up moving to LA. Like, my entire life is different because of this Facebook ad, right? So
crazy.
I
Yeah.
think, like, it's like, okay, like I'm willing to tell a bunch of information about myself into the world, and if with that the world gives me this like really relevant opportunity for me, then like it could be really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole mess of stuff that happens when you're being fed more of the same. We could go down that rabbit hole, but I think targeted ads make our lives better for the most part.
It was so creepy that they knew that exactly what I wanted was like a bamboo cutting board. Like, it was so creepy that they knew that I wanted that. Like, what the fuck?
Instead of just
then
being
I have
like,
the bamboo cutting board, and like,
I love it.
I did kind of want it.
Wow, this was a great cutting board. Like, they just, it was right there in front of me, and
5
it's
stars.
Exactly what I wanted. Yeah, I'd buy it again.
It was. I got this cutting board. It was not only bamboo, but also like in the corner of it, there's this little like, imagine the cutting board being completely flat, but then there's this little like teeny rectangle in the corner of it that you can turn 90 degrees on a little hinge, and what that does is you can stand the cutting board up vertically, so it saves space.
That is cool. And that was from a Facebook ad? Or was that on Amazon?
No, I just like found it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of the
still,
same thing.
It's not that different, yeah.
Things you might like based on us knowing everything about you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like me, I'm all into the whole nutrition, biohacking, stuff like that. I would much rather see ads for hyper relevant, I don't know, let's say food products that I might be like, holy shit, that's amazing, I've been waiting for that, rather than like ads for fucking Viagra and shit. Do people not remember how bad ads were?
Like fucking TV ads.
TV ads are insane.
Are you kidding me?
Pharmaceuticals, retirement homes. I don't want to be seeing those ads. I'd much rather be seeing targeted ads.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't you rather see like a biohacking ad for like...
Hey, here are some ads perfectly crafted for exactly what you're interested in. Or you can go watch some fucking retirement Viagra combined facility. We'll give you Viagra and you can retire.
Huh. What is this on, like, The Price is Right or something?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I know I do see both sides, but like, this is why I also think like basic attention token, like to have an decentralized ad network where the code is like, we don't have to stay on BAT for that much longer, but like where the code is verifiable and like, you just like, what do we trust more? Facebook or this company that called Brave that like introduced a bunch of like
and it's
fearless
transparent
features and they're,
you can look at the code, you can everybody knows where the interactions of financially are happening. It's so clearly, to use your phrasing that has like become a part of my brain, it's so easy to see where the world is pointing. And it's obviously pointing towards that and not towards these seemingly evil companies that cover stuff up and manipulate. And I don't even think these companies are as bad as people necessarily make them out to be. I'm kind of more on the other side of that. But it's so clearly pointing in the direction of everything that we kind of talk about. Transparency, everything just being genuinely good.
And it's funny, I watched this like Ray Lewis Hall of Fame speech, and I loved it, and like I grew up rooting for Ray Lewis, and it was so cool to watch it. But anyway, there was an idea even in that speech that I posted to the Wisdom Truth the other day.
I think I saw it.
That I think relates to Brave. So Brave's logo is a lion, and I'll just play it.
To the king of the jungle, he says, the lion is not the tallest animal in the jungle. The lion is not the largest animal in the jungle. The lion is not the smartest nor the most intelligent animal in the jungle. And yet, when the lion shows up, he is king.
Yeah, I like that. It is cool.
It's like, I kind of think that's what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Went from 1 million to 3 million users half a year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like, who knows? Maybe the whole thing flops. But it's just like, I'm rooting for them hard. And, part of the reason I'm also rooting for them hard is because I've invested in it. And that gets me even more into it, so.
Which is interesting in itself.
Even this, like, they allow everybody to become a shareholder.
Yeah, nobody's going around being excited about Firefox anymore.
Yeah, like if Firefox 10x's, then I don't make it.
Let's just talk about Firefox for the next 30 minutes. That's. But
it was also this. So the guy that's building Brave co-founded Firefox. also.
Shit.
And he invented JavaScript.
Oh wow. I literally didn't know that as I said that. So that's crazy.
There's like too many points here. I don't know.
It has to work.
We'll see.
I'm gonna look into it more.
Yeah, I don't know. If I end up being wrong, then I'll just be like, yeah, like.
I mean, clearly I should put some into it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. And like the market cap right now, it's like, I think it's like the 40th top coin or something, which means the market cap is 250 million, and the like Bitcoin, or I'll go up. So Ripple right now, which is like a seemingly very promising one, is something like plus or minus a bunch because this thing changes every day. But let's say maybe 20 billion. I might be off by like a factor of 2 here. So let's say 20 billion. So, or let's say 18. So Ripple is about 60, I think. 60 or 70 times bigger than BAT right now. Bitcoin at 120 billion, as it should be bigger than BAT Bitcoin, obviously. But 120 billion is 120 times 4 is 400. So Bitcoin's 480 times bigger than BAT. So it's just like, I think it is higher risk than Bitcoin, but it also could, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been skeptical of, well, I don't know, I should say always, but I was more skeptical of Bitcoin, and you've kind of convinced me that it's has more utility than I thought. But I was more like, well, which are the top 10 that have the most likelihood of actually being a big player later on? And I mean, I'm down with that. It sounds like that's clearly one to consider. Cardano is clearly, I don't know, I haven't looked at it in a while, but at the time I was like, holy shit. I mean, I think that's like in the top 6 market cap, so it's already pretty up there. It's definitely in the top 10. I want to say 6 or 7.
The thing that's cool about this, and like Bitcoin, I think is sort of, I used to think of it like money, but now I think of it as gold. And that I think I'm really excited about. But then BAT, like, oh fuck, this company has 3 million, and it's not only users, but monthly active users on their product. Like, very, very few products get to 3 million users. Like, even, like, when Snap IPO'd, it probably had, like, 300 million users. Which is a lot more, but, you know...
But not really. I mean, the way I think about
but
it...
But if we're on a log scale, it's actually not that much more.
Right. I mean, sure, it's 100 times more, but...
Think about how many times you have to 10x to get to 3 million. So you had 100, then you had 1,000, then you had 10,000, 100,000, a million, you know?
Yeah.
They only have to 10x...
2 more times.
2 more times to get to 300 million.
Yeah.
So, and only 5 more times to get to the more people than there are on Earth. I was trying to make one of those jokes, but I didn't like set it up right.
Yeah, well, the population is going up, so... Or, is it lately? I don't know. I
feel
like just a statistic that blew my mind. I'm probably, again, this is the episode of botched statistics. And botched,
episode of botched statistics.
I'm just like, we're just like recalling all these things that we don't quite remember, but...
Yeah.
This was something that blew my mind when I was probably like 18, 19 years old. I read the book, it's like a novel, it's called Ishmael? I forget who it's by, Daniel Quinn. And I barely remember the story at this point. Whole different topic. I'm really bad at retaining books and movies. I think my brain just determines that, like, it's not something to be stored.
I'm actually really bad at retaining movies. Or I do remember some parts of movies, and I do get like really affected. Like, I'll cry at movies all the time. But yeah, whenever someone is like,
oh, you remember that one part in that one movie that we saw 8 years ago? And I'm just like, not really.
Wait, you saw it 8 years ago and you still remember?
Yeah,
this is incredible.
And I'm just like, I think I saw that movie. I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, in this book, I would love to revisit it now with like my current outlook of life and see how I thought of it now. But at the time, it was like a very compelling argument worked into an entertaining novel about kind of making the argument that most of the world's problems are due to mass increase in population in such a short period of time, and that messing up just like a lot of things, from agriculture and just like all these things that have gotten out of whack. And I don't know if I would necessarily even agree with that at this point, but that's kind of not the point. Anyways, that led me to looking into the population. And I remember thinking how wild it was. I was like doing a report. I was like 18, 19 or something. And the stat went something like so this was probably 2010, and like 50 years prior in 1960, the world population was a third of the current population, which just seems wild because we have this. This is almost like the million versus a billion thing, but we feel like, oh yeah, population's been, it's like, oh, what's the population now? 7 billion. So I feel like if you were to guess, you would be like, oh, 100 years ago is probably 6.7 billion, and 100 years before that it was probably 6 billion. But no, it was dramatic. I mean, there were so much less people in a really recent time ago. Like, this is not what Earth is used to.
You said 1950, right?
It was like 1950 or 1960. I remember thinking that when my parents were kids, the population of Earth was 3 times less.
And even it's interesting.
Such a wild
I
thought.
even think about like art. Like the amount of people making art is now. There's probably a lot of other factors, but there's 3 times the amount of supply for this. So, just like to think about the Beatles, to think about all of these people that were like really talented. Not only is there more people in the world, more people to get inspired to do things, but there's also like the internet, things to like, I don't know, I guess I took it like a little bit of a different thing, but just...
You mean that there's more producers or more
there's
consumers,
so many
or just
people,
more
and
both?
there's also more connections. Like,
I get what you're saying, and it is interesting, but I also think it happened at a very quick. It's scaled fast, which is
it is scaling. Yeah.
It's and that's why now we find ourselves in a place where a lot of things are just. I don't like to be of the mentality that things are out of control, but it wasn't. It's kind of like it would be akin to a company scaling too fast and being like, oh shit, we need to like hire managers and figure this shit out. Like we just like we don't know what we're really doing, and that's I used to think about that a lot. I haven't thought about it in a while, but it did blow my mind when I realized just how recently the population had exploded. So it's weird.
Yeah, it's really like you're born and they're like, all right, this is a ball, this is a rock, and then you go a few years later and it's like, okay, and this is the internet. It's just kind of nuts the time that we're living in, and there's almost no amount of thinking that could get me to just like realize how crazy it is that we're here.
Maybe this is just like the bias of our first person experience of the world. But I feel like our age bracket specifically, like very specifically, like say people that are between 3 years older than us, or 5 years older than us and 5 years young, not even, that might be too broad. Like we are just of this very narrow window where we bridge that gap. Like for example, I mean,
like I remember dial-up internet and like 4 kilobytes a second.
I remember, riding my bike to your friend's house and knocking on the door to see if they were home, and like, calling and they didn't have caller ID and it's ringing and like all that stuff, but it's just what I was going to say though is like, I know people that are just 4 years older than me that seem much older than me because they don't quite have that young millennial, if you will, grasp of technology, right? But then I know people that are 4 years younger than me that's the only way they know. Like they are so brought up in that world, and it's really that narrow of a window. Like we are in this tiny gap where we've seen both sides, and maybe that's just my own bias. It really, obviously there's some of that at play, but it is unique to think that we kind of like, I remember we bridged that gap. Like,
and I think everyone has this to an extent with technology, but you're right. Like when it hit us, and based on when we were born, we definitely got like a real interesting vibe with it. Like we remember when the iPod came out, and then when the iPhone came out was my first year of high school, I think. And now we're just like,
are we the same age? I don't even know. Wait, how?
I'm 25. I just turned 25 recently.
Okay, so I'm almost gonna turn 26. So, what month is your birthday?
July.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like 10
Okay.
months older than you. Basically the
10 months
same.
older.
But yeah, I feel like our age bracket, it really is interesting. Like you take our parents' generation, and sure they can kind of use technology, but I mean they knew a completely different world. And they went from having no technology to 20 years later there's a fax machine or whatever. Like it was just a very different curve. Whereas now we've gone from growing up with a fax machine and now just having like a supercomputer in our pocket and 5G internet and like podcasts that are distributed all over the internet, whereas when we grew up with like fucking cassettes and radios and like TVs with antennas on them and like it really is unique. And I agree that every generation I think experiences that, but we experienced like the rapid ramp up of that.
Yeah, we did, and this is also one of the reasons that this is why I care more like about Alexa and like, all right, get the Alexa, like let's learn about this, just to try and keep learning, because it does take continual attention.
Yes.
To learn about these things.
And I agree. I think it's so. It's bad. I'll put that label on it. It's like I really hate. I'm using a lot of negative words, but.
Can we please stop? Negative
I just
words, I noticed that you
personally
used the word bad a few sentences ago. I just didn't want to keep going.
This is a kid-friendly podcast.
Yeah, I just thought that we should address it instead of getting the comments afterwards.
No, but oh my god, what was I even gonna say? Like the outlook of I'm too old to learn that shit, or it was better back in the past, or
was it? Yeah.
Right. And I see this is back to people that are 4 or 5 years older than us. I mean, I know people that are 4 or 5 years older than us that are completely with it with the technology, but I also know people that are 4 or 5 years older than us that are already like kind of checked out with it. They're just like they're already so behind the curve that they're just like, you know what? I like missed the boat on that. And to me, it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do in 30 years? Like, how are you just like signing off
Like
of your like
any boats that we may have already missed have already left. Let's just look at the boats that are in the harbor now and try and get on one.
You're 30 years old and you're already saying shit like I'm too old for like that. Like no, like dude, you have so much to go. You have to stay on top of it to some extent. And I think people like you or I don't think we will ever be like that. I don't think you or I have any chance of being 55 years old and being like, yeah, well, back in my day, we had fucking...
I'm sure there's a chance just because it's sometimes hard to predict how things will go, but I really fucking hope not.
I think I'm not saying we won't get behind at all, but we'll be following the boat in a slightly slower boat.
I guess we can't really know.
We won't be on the boat, but we'll be like right behind the boat. We won't be like on shore just like, fucking mowing our grass and shit.
Just at this point, it's just so hard to predict, like more than 20 or 25 years into even that much. Like we might just be pure forms of consciousness and be in a matrix and like be one group mind of humanity sending thoughts to each other. Like
from a rock.
Yeah,
in space.
Thoughts from Space Rock will probably be like the top podcast by then. So this reminded me of a Mark Manson quote from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck,
which I need to read.
I highly recommend. When I was young, anytime my family got a new VCR or stereo, I would press every button, plug and unplug every cord and cable just to see what everything did. With time, I learned how the whole system worked, and because I knew how it all worked, I was often the only person in the house who used the stuff. As is the case for many millennial children, my parents looked on as if I were some sort of prodigy. To them, the fact that I could program the VCR without looking at the instruction manual made me the second coming of Tesla. It's easy to look back at my parents' generation and chuckle at their technophobia. But the further I get into adulthood, the more I realize we all have areas of our lives where we're like my parents with the new VCR. We sit and stare and shake our heads and say, but how? When really, it's as simple as just doing it.
Yeah. I love that, and it relates perfectly, so that hits it right. on the head.
Yeah, it's like, it's not about what we know or what we don't, or the boats that we missed or the boats that are here. It's just like, okay, what do I need to do? And let's do it now. Oh, I can't do it now? Okay, well, what can I do now? Oh, I'm tired now? Okay, so can I rest now? Like, now.
Yeah, and people don't believe they can, though. Like, I don't know. Explaining Snapchat to somebody that's 60. Like, they just feel like they can't. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like, how do you explain Snapchat? See, really, there would be a way.
They could easily do it. I mean, I remember, like, just watching even my parents get more and more comfortable with their iPhones, for example.
Yeah.
Like, every millennial has experienced an older person just, like, trying to push on the iPhone, and like they're just like not even tapping right.
And I love what he's saying. It's because instead of looking at someone and be like, oh, they don't know it, oh, that means that they don't know it. It's like, instead it's like, oh, well, they don't know it, that means that there's something that they don't understand in the same way that I understand. Okay, what's the missing link? Oh, should I tell it to them in this way? They still didn't understand. Maybe I should reword it. Like, you have to start with what someone already knows and then build. Like, an idea that I thought was like, all rooms are found through existing hallways. All new rooms are found through existing hallways. Like, people find new things through what they already know, and then they make a slight leap based on what they already know. So, yeah.
I was literally just like an hour ago. Well, we've been recording for an hour. 2 hours ago.
Alright.
I was listening to Craig Adams with Matt Diavella. I don't know if you follow either of them. But there was this point they were making. I kind of stopped right in the middle of it, but it was talking about how, and it was something I'm going to think about even with podcasting, or for example with my YouTube, just how we are much on the same trajectory, the same sort of thinking. It makes sense, but so many people are in their own box, and for us, sometimes we explain something like we forget what it feels like to be us 5 years ago. And they were talking about, when you're trying to explain something that is just so obviously the way that you think and you live, to imagine you're explaining it to yourself, say 5 years ago, if that's the timeline that you didn't know. Because, for me trying to talk, like for me on YouTube, I'll use that example, is like me talking about my mindset of, not wanting to work for somebody, or like anything is possible. Like I struggle to articulate that stuff because to me it's just ingrained in my mindset at this point. But to figure out to remember what it felt like to not have that, and how you can lead people to your current mindset from a place that is completely different from where you currently are.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said explaining it as if you're explaining it to yourself, right? Because that's kind of the only way to do it.
Because somehow you got from there to here. So to figure out how you could articulate that to somebody else who is there and wants to be here.
Yeah. But they're never actually there. They're always like they're in their own version of there. Yeah.
But if they're similar to you, it might help. Right. It will help you. It's hard for me to just talk as I talk now and really sympathize with where that person is, because I don't feel that feeling anymore of you don't know what it was like to not have your current mindset.
And it's just a matter of, you need to feel that feeling in a sense. You need to be able to.
But how do you? Like, can you just right now
just by realizing that these are just thoughts, right? But like by realizing that person is you in a sense, it's like, oh, like, yeah, like I see myself in this person so much, and like I have so much empathy, and like their life is like I see myself in their eyes in a sense, so of course I feel what they feel. And by feeling what they feel, then I know the things to say. This is the idea of it, and it is this is the challenge, just to be able to feel what people feel. But I think that once you can, then that's true understanding, and then that allows you to people like. There's no such thing as like, well, how do we do this? How do we do this? It's just about the Alan Watts thing. It's just about understanding and feeling, and then we just know what to do.
It is hard. It's something I've been thinking about more, I guess, in a more entrepreneurial conversation than, I mean, we talk entrepreneurship here, I guess, but how you lead somebody to that mindset. Because I think we all kind of get programmed to have the opposite mindset. And I think I went through that phase of unprogramming that set, closed mindset, get a job, go to school, whatever. Whereas to me at this point, it almost seems uninteresting to talk about that stuff. And that's why I struggle to articulate it. Like I've almost lost that feeling because I've been in the other feeling for so long now that it is hard for me to, like, I just want to like shake them and be like, don't you realize, you know? But that's not the way to do it, obviously.
Yeah, and also like we are in the same exact box. We're all in the same box. Like, how can I shake myself?
Yeah, I mean,
like, what don't I realize? There's probably so many obvious things that I'm not
still in the box. I mean,
but like, this is the thing about the box is that you can never get out of it. You can only just know that you're in it. And then slowly it starts to like get bigger. It's
interesting though how when somebody who is, let's say, what are those things where it's like a little doll and another doll and another doll? Like, we might have gotten out of one box, but we're in another box. And it's just very funny because I feel as though there's no way to say these things without it sounding cocky. But now being in a place where I am on YouTube, like there are people that look up to where I am and are just extremely, extremely impressed, and they think it's better than it even is. And it's because they are stuck in a smaller box, and they think my box, the lid is open, you know. But what they don't realize is, like, you know, I'm still playing this business box. I mean, the only difference is I'm not, you know, doing a lot of things
just
I hate.
Just to be seen
like,
in a way that you don't see yourself. Like,
what do you mean?
People just don't understand it the way you see it.
Yeah.
And they're like, they think
I have complete boundless freedom from anything.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't know, like, if it's a smaller box or are people just all in, like, every box is actually the same exact size because, like, the muscles that we use to get out of these boxes are the same exact muscles.
Yeah, it's like you get out of the box, but you're still in a box. I mean, and this is why I've even been just a little less interested in business the last month or two, I guess I would say, because it's still a box.
What boxes? What are your boxes?
I don't know if I can articulate it, but like playing the game of entrepreneurship and wealth, it is the same box as playing the job box. You've just eliminated some things that you hate, like waking up with an alarm and sitting in traffic and having a boss who's a dick or whatever, but you're still kind of playing the game of money and like progress and these things that just kind of fall away when you think about the next level, kind of the I don't know, you start thinking about death or something, and it's just like, well, business is like, it's just, a business is just a little box in our entire experience.
Well, if you call it business, and you say, I want to be successful at business.
Sure.
There's no such thing as being successful at business. Business isn't a thing, it's only what you do, and
it's just what you're doing.
Selling something, right? If we make money because we want to make money, then that's not gonna do anything. But if we make money because we want to, like, do something with that money and use the money to affect some sort of change just based on the way the world works, then we're in business.
And just to clarify, like, that, what you just described is my absolute mindset. And
I know
that's why I love business, is because I think that wealth is very important. But we're
surrounded by so much of
and I think wealth is so important because it can allow you to pull so many levers, and that's why I'm absolutely on that path. But then, you know, there are no words. I'm struggling to articulate this, but even that just seems to fall away when you take when you briefly see the next box. When you see the next box, it's just this game of transactions and needing to buy a car and have somewhere to live. And
what do you think about this? If the box doesn't feel right, then just choose another box and try to get out of that one. Because I feel like eventually, if we choose, people are like, what are they talking about? I feel like
somebody just like skipped halfway through the episode and they're just like,
what?
They keep going back to try to get what we were talking about.
They talked about just box. It didn't make any sense. But what about like if the box that you're in like doesn't feel right? It's like, okay, we'll change the box, try and solve a new problem. Because man, like from my experience, if you really have a problem that you're excited to solve, then that is like the fucking feeling. Like when I started this is the first Crypto Guys article I've written in months, and when I started writing it, I was like, fuck, like I have to do this. Like I have to do it. And I feel like when we get into that point where like we have to do something just for the sake of doing it, and we're just like so motivated, then that's where we want to be. Like if chasing money what gave me a really good feeling and I really enjoyed it, then like fuck yeah, like let's do that. Let's just do the thing that's gonna make us feel the way we want to feel, right? But that's just not what we're chasing. Like once we have a bunch of money, like, oh, it's a number in a bank account. Oh, what am I gonna do with that number? Oh, other people will know that I have that, and they're gonna like want to be around me, and like I don't know. It's like it seems like this empty hole to dig, and then you just get really down in it, and it's like, oh wait, where did everyone go? Like I don't know. I don't want it for the money. I want it for what it can do.
100%. I mean, you can't.
And this is like I'm constantly reminding myself of this, like,
and while money
the music that I listen to, everything, because it is like I'm not trying to like feel like. I think there's also like the ego side of it, where like you also want to avoid the like I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I'm good.
There's so much of this right now, and that stuff bothers me maybe more than the people that just want money.
It's like it's all a type of insecurity. The money is like, I want to feel like I want to feel like I'm enough, or I'm not chasing money because I'm good. It's like I want to feel like I'm good.
I wonder what it is. Like maybe it's something that I need to dig up in myself, but that bothers me more. So it's like, what is it poking in me? Because that bothers me more. Like
what bothers you more?
The people that are humbler than thou.
Oh,
you know? Right. Yeah. I think that bothers me more than just some stuck-up prick with a, fucking Ferrari. Because they're just doing their thing. I love exotic. I think exotic cars are cool. I get that it's just this silly appeal, and then a lot of people take that so seriously, and they're like, oh, like, don't you think there's something better you could do with like your money, or like, it's like, well, why are people just so judgmental of everything? It's like,
yeah, it's like, instead of don't you think there's something better you could do?
Couldn't you have had a better comment than that? I mean, like, could you have said something more productive?
Right, in a sense, that kind of strangely is the response.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of, there's all of these like judgments being made without questions being asked, like, oh, why did you want to get that car? Yeah. Because you thought that people, like, this is just an example, like, because you thought that it would make people really like want to be around you. And I know that we had the whole car conversation. I get the car thing, but like, for example, oh, you wanted a really expensive car because people would want to hang out with you more. Oh, well, why do you think? Oh, because you were bullied when you were younger. Oh, you're how did that make? Oh my god, like, you got this, they said that to you, like, that must have fucking felt terrible. And like, I get why instead of like, don't you think there's something better that you can spend?
Yeah, I completely agree. People are just so unsympathetic, And rich people get a lot of shit. It's crazy. I mean, it's so easy to think that rich people are just all stuck up pricks, but rich people and celebrities, not that I'm either of those, but I can see that now. I can see that, like, people just they just dump their shit on rich people and celebrities because, oh, you have everything you ever need. And, like, it's like, no, it's like they're just people that happen to have a little more shit in their bank account.
Like,
and they have a little bit more freedom because they have this currency. Like, let them do their thing, you know? Like, that doesn't make them a bad person because they have that.
When I collected autographs, that's what I learned. They were my heroes, especially... It's funny how the autographs ties into the Brave with the Ray Lewis quote and then this, but like especially Ray Lewis, but really all of them. I like look up to these guys, especially like growing up without a dad. I think that also really like these like strong male figures, and what are we on right now?
We had a few threads up in the air right now.
But what were we just on? Fuck.
I was like holding on to one thread, but it wasn't the most recent thread. This is gonna sound so dumb and like.
Wait, the Bodo's already left. Let's try and find it. Oh, the celebrity thing.
Oh yeah.
So basically, over time, I was like, oh yeah, these are people, and yeah, like some of them don't sign autographs, and there would be people that are like, oh well, that means that they're an asshole. It's like. Does it, or maybe they're afraid of interactions. Like, I don't think I thought all this back then, but like, Are they just have social anxiety, or there could be other things, or like maybe they don't have as much empathy, and they don't like rejoice in like seeing someone smile.
Or they've done it so many times that it's just kind of dead to them.
Or
now,
they're like, or it makes them feel objectified. And
yes.
Like, oh, like you want me to just sign my name, but you don't want to ask me a question about myself?
Or take Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez.
Especially.
Like people that can't go out in public without getting photos taken of them, like, they can't just be themselves.
They can't. It's sort of like the box almost sort of gets smaller around you at that point because there's.
But I also think
like does wealth increase what you can do or does it decrease what you can do?
Yeah, and maybe this is just you thinking you could do a better job, but I feel like if I was in that position, I would just explain what I would like have this conversation right now.
Right.
You know? And I feel like that would help their situation. But instead they just put up a wall and like fight instead of just being like, you know what, I love you guys, but like this makes me really uncomfortable. I feel like
just to explain like how you feel, And I mean, but also think about like this has been happening to Bieber since he was like I don't know, probably much younger.
15 or something.
Yeah, and like to not have the time. I'm really happy. Like, you know, who knows what'll happen. In 50 years the podcast is going to be number one. Mm-hmm. But you know, like if we were to achieve something like that, it's hard to say
There's
exactly, but I am happy
fame.
that I've had years of like it's just nice, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that at a young age has to be really heavy for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and I also think like, it depends on what you're doing. Me doing what I'm doing or you doing what you're doing, it would never be that type of attention. It just wouldn't. Like, it just wouldn't. The only people that get that type of attention are those types of characters.
Yeah,
it's not
I think
author or a podcaster or an art.
But from that standpoint, it's like, what is it about this medium of really? I mean, music. I think is a big one. Like people just really connect with music, and it's similar to comedy in a sense. The comedy, there's these people that just like say what they feel and like they just fucking do it, and we're like, oh my god, they're so fearless. But music is, in a sense, they like convert what they feel into this thing that makes us feel a certain way. And I think that there's some sort of fundamental truth to why people are so attracted to the people that make music.
Yeah. And maybe that's why we wouldn't achieve that. Because like there's a realness in the type of stuff that we're doing, and there's a
Who's to say that we wouldn't make music?
But we wouldn't make it. Okay, I did make music.
Yeah.
And I was very much in the small niches and I was like very anti-mainstream and stuff. Like the mainstream is where you run there's the potential of paparazzi type shit.
But,
whereas like
yeah.
the niche stuff it's like what we're talking about
Mainstream
here.
is just niche that gets popular.
In a way, but it's also made with a much more commercialized agenda.
Man, I don't think always. Like,
No, not always.
Not always.
Not always.
Sometimes. but-
I mean, I definitely have
like look
seen.
at like I've been getting more into Logic recently.
Yeah.
And like he's huge and he.
I agree. That's a
yeah.
good example for that side.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of take like the main machine of hits and top 100, it's mostly just like the commercial formula.
But then I think if you look in history and look at like the things that like really changed stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Beatles couldn't have possibly known that they were going to change the way music was.
Yeah. No.
Because
They.
whenever you put something really new, then you can't know what's going to happen with it. It's by definition a risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's what I think. It's like if you try and make something for mainstream, then you've sort of missed the point, because what that really means is that you've tried to copy the people that are already popular and you've tried to piggyback off of that instead of moving the ball forward even more. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It seems sort of like against the ethos of art in a sense. At the same time, right, we all need to make money. We all need this stuff. So like, I get both sides, but I think that when you make money the whole of what you're going to, it's just...
Yeah, and
Like,
I think that's what I'm saying though.
There's a
like,
reason why we love art so much. There's like, back to the Bieber. There's a reason why people love it. We're here for like this stuff. We could care. Like numbers are everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that poem I wrote, but I'm down to also read that eventually, because this is along those.
Yeah, if you think that
lines.
fits, whenever. But yeah, I
Yeah.
remember reading it. But yeah, now or if you think of a time that this seems more
I
fitting.
don't know. Well, you
but-
were about to say something, so.
Well, no, I think we were about done on that. Just that I think we agree, but I just feel that a lot of like the cheesy mainstream music is completely commercialized and less artistic. Like it is following a formula, and it's not about somebody becoming famous. It's often the people that are already there, and then they're just cranking out like the formula.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's both sides to it, and like, I'm just focused on the one that I want to
Yeah.
emulate.
Same. I was gonna tie one thing back.
Go.
When we were talking about like being mad at like the dude with the Ferrari and like, well, why do you have that or whatever, is it ties right back to the first conversation that we started with today about like the watches, because you could very easily be like, you know, the insecure person that just wants like the big fat gold Rolex with the diamonds or whatever, but that's completely different than like the types of watches I was showing you that are like nuanced, and it's just different. And that's almost like the art versus the mainstream too. The gold Rolex is the mainstream shallow thing. Not that there are respectable gold Rolexes,
Right.
but
Everything
but-
shallow is deeper once you start
But
asking the right questions.
But there's, maybe this is just my watch snob and car snob coming out, and music snob, but it's like tastes versus
Is this
show.
the watch snob, car snob, and music snob all coming out at once?
Yeah, it is. I admit to being a snob on those things
No,
because
I'm
joking, but I'm also kind of not joking. Is because I just strongly believe in. It all comes back to intent. It's like tastes. If you have tastes and you intentionally want this watch that might be $50, it might be $500,000, but if there is a meaning and a significance to it, same thing with a supercar or an old cheap car or whatever. Like there are tastes, and then there is flashy for the sake of flashy. You know, me as somebody that is into cars that, like, I mean, there are cars that I lust after that are millions of dollars. And then there are cars that I see on the road that are worth $5,000 that I'm like, oh, that's a very particular thing from a very particular year. It's this special thing. And I'm excited by that $5,000 car way more than I'm excited by some just like bullshit, like brand new Audi that's like somebody trying to show off, or Range Rover, right? Like that doesn't excite me at all. Whereas like the $3 million Koenigsegg might excite me, and the $5,000 fucking like shitty Supra might excite me. But there's this other ground. Same with the watches. Like, a $500 beat up Omega Seamaster might excite me, whereas like a $10,000 bullshit diamond watch might not excite me. But then a $500,000 Patek might excite me because it's about the art, the tastes, the nuance, the history.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
But yeah, there's so much judging of that, and that's where I think the tastes come in.
Yeah, I mean, there is. I guess it's just like, oh well, why do people like what they like? Oh, okay, they like it because of this.
Yeah, I do, but I would find myself kind of having some judgment for the choices that are completely superficial, right?
But like, they're not superficial.
But right, no, but I would see it the way you're about to describe,
Yeah.
and you did describe, but it's also like, then there's something else there, and you need to figure out what that other thing is.
I guess the way I see it is like nobody is superficial. It's just about understanding why people are the way they are.
Yeah, and they're filling some need, which is fine. Like, it'd be easy to be like, oh, what, you just want the Range Rover because you need to, like, because you have a small dick or whatever. Like, I don't know, like, all that shit. Like, you can go that way.
Yeah.
But it's just much better to go the way of, like, okay, well, maybe you do have... I mean,
Maybe you do have a small dick. Maybe the Range Rover makes you feel better about it. Shit, maybe that even makes it a little bit...
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great way of thinking about it. It's like, instead of like just, you drive off in your fucking 8,000-pound truck being just like, oh, that guy's a small dick, whatever. Like, instead of just being like, well, what makes him think the way that he thinks?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, people are just way too quick to think people are bad for everything they do. Is that an awkward transition into the poem?
Let's do it. Burn your wick to its end. You can't save it, so don't pretend. You don't need the wick, you need the light. But what if my wick runs out? It very well might. No, it will. And with its light, your next will be in sight. We focus on length, but not on glow. On tasks, but not on flow. On fast, but not on slow. On the past, but not on yo. We ask and ask, but don't die to know. So let's try it new, this time slow. It's okay to feel fear, still go.
That was super good.
Thank you.
I didn't see that one. I thought you were referring to the... Where did you post that one?
On Instagram.
Oh, I hadn't seen it. That was really good.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah,
And that concept I've been thinking a lot about. I think with like all the Alan Watts and all of that, it's just...
it's what I've been thinking about too recently. And what got me, I wasn't even planning, but I watched this Ray Lewis Hall of Fame speech, and that just got me so like in the mode. So then that got me writing it. It was like, it was cool to like just start writing, and like, I don't know, like, especially I've only really, in the last few years, I wrote that one a few months ago, but I haven't written any. It's just fun to like start writing and like see where it takes you, and just like kind of, even a poem, like, it has no goals, and wherever it winds up is where it winds up. And at the end, I was like, oh yeah, like now it's finished.
Yeah, that is cool.
It was, and just like trying to think about, like, it's interesting how like the basic attention token and like thinking about attention and like focus, like just thinking about like levels of focus and levels of flow, and trying to just pursue that. And I feel like that's sort of my box right now, in a sense.
Yeah, I feel career-wise to still be not into that box, because it's like I want to create that space for my everyday, and that's something I'm still like working on, just to be able to not get caught in the frenzy. And I think I do a lot of things right, but it's still easy to have. I mean, it's not like I'm devoid of stress. It's not that it's even about being devoid of stress, but you gotta appreciate the glow and not just look at the length of the wick.
How does the stress show up for you?
Well, I mean, I just physically feel it. I'm less present because I'm worrying about something.
Like, what's something that you would worry about, just as an example?
I mean, this is kind of back to how.
And by the way, send the questions right back my way.
I will. But like business wise, like I said, everyone thinks I have it. Like people assume it's next level, and it's like they don't realize I'm just at a slightly higher step. You know, it's just a step. So I put a lot of pressure on myself just because of the squeezing the orange analogy. You know, getting all the juice out of everything, and I'm really into trying to reach my potential, and sometimes I'm just a lazy motherfucker and I don't do what I feel like I should be doing, and part of this is in balance with giving myself permission to not always be pushing, but I very easily go the other way and don't make progress. So I put stress on myself based on how much progress there could be if I was just freaking focused.
What do you define as progress?
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's a good one. I was just having a conversation about this earlier with, like somebody that's going to be like kind of consulting me on some level. You said, what do I define as progress?
Yeah. What do you define as progress?
Jeez, that's the question. I mean, moving towards more happiness, less stress, more flow, less resistance. Moving towards that thing we're talking about, the thing we're pointing at, and getting out of the stress. And I think that there is still a level of, even financial, I think that there's a financial level that would free me up much more. Like, sure, I'm much better off than I was a couple years ago, but I still have those stresses. Like, I have to keep going. You say the same thing. I feel like so I define as progress. I think I have multiple definitions of progress. The conversation earlier was about like my personal brand and impact, and it's the growth has slowed, and that makes me feel bad. It's not that bad, like it's still good, but it's because of the missed upside that I feel bad. It's not because I think anything is going down, but it's because if I know that it's on this one track where it's like train tracks, like let's say one is going 5 miles an hour, and that's fine. It's not going backwards, it's going 5 miles an hour. But what if I know that if I could divert the train and that the other one is downhill and it would go 15 miles an hour? Like, I just know that there's room for more progress. Personal brand wise, I want more reach.
But the train analogy also assumes one track. Like, sometimes there's...
Maybe be in a different direction.
Yeah, you're right. It would be in an infinite direction.
I mean...
And it's all about... It's like, do you want to go in this direction? There's a train that goes in every direction.
Sure, yeah. I don't know, I just want more.
There's a good... We could go in a bunch of different directions, but this
I like this
quote
topic,
from
but
a recent...
We'll keep
this is right.
Yeah, we'll keep the thread open.
On it, but this quote from Aubrey Marcus from a recent trip that he did. Let me find it. Okay. Where there is desire, there is fear. Fear of the desire being unmet. Faith can supplant fear. Abundance is faith embodied. So I may desire, but just need to hold faith that my desires will be met. And to the extent I have faith, I will be in abundance and not have fear. The other option is to rid myself of desire, which sounds terribly boring to me.
Yeah. I'm weird. I hold both in juxtaposition. Like, I know that to be true, and I feel like I practice that most of the time, but then I just still get kind of sucked into the stress and the worry, even though I know that I'm going the right way. Like, from our trip, one of like the little pieces of wisdom that I brought back as a souvenir from the trip was just this concept of like, you're doing the right thing and you're on the right path. Like, fucking shut the fuck up. Like, you're doing it, you know? Like, it's like you kind of go into a trip with this thought of like, well, I need to figure out what to do.
You gotta figure out what the brand name is gonna be.
Yeah, and like, you know, what's the next thing? And like, you know, I'm on this path, but there's this other, like, I know that there's more I could be doing, and what is it? And then the trip is just like, you're doing it. Like, you're fine. You're right here. Like, you're going, and you're doing a lot of great stuff, and you're on the right track, the right train track, the right whatever. Like, you're just going. And whether it's the right or wrong, you're just going. And
It's
that's
the right by the fact that you're on it.
right. The whole game is the track. It's not trying to end.
However the story ends, it will start as it has already started.
Yeah. I was watching, I don't know what Alan Watts book or speech or something that these were from, but I started getting suggested on YouTube all of these Alan Watts little shorts. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
I'm sure there's a lot
And-
more I could see.
There's definitely some examples I'm forgetting, but one of them was about like classical music. It could be any type of music, but the classical example was good because this really is the botched like memory episode because like
I remember in the book Wisdom of Insecurity,
It might have been
you
in
mentioned
there, too.
classical, how they build up,
Yeah.
and then they just like milk the shit too much.
it might have been
It's like,
in
did he
there.
just
It might have been in there
dictate
too,
time?
but there was another. It
Yeah.
wasn't. There was another one maybe, and it was about just that. You know, you don't. Music has a finale, but the goal is not to get to the finale as fast as possible. Like, you know, the orchestra doesn't just come out and play the final chord and everyone goes home like, oh, we finally got there. Like, it's the dance. And
It's almost-
you don't dance for the end of the dance. You dance for the dance. You listen to the music for the build up, for the tension, for the release, like all of this stuff.
When you realize that the finale is actually every single moment in the music.
The thing is the path. The thing is not the finale. Like, the finale is the least interesting part because it's over. Or maybe, I mean, it's interesting too, but it's the cap. It's the end. Whereas,
It's like everything in its place, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's the thing that's given me the most comfort, which is kind of related to like the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Which, by the way, is a little bit of a misleading title. He's not saying just don't give a fuck about anything, but is just to kind of rejoice in everything that I don't know and everything that I like haven't learned yet. Like, I don't, like, everything that I'm ever gonna know that I don't know right now is gonna come via a surprise.
Ooh, yeah, there was something else I listened to that was just on that same topic. It was like, if you knew, or maybe we were just talking about it, it was like, if you knew the whole story, the only thing you would crave anymore was surprise. Because now everything is uninteresting. It's like, oh, okay, you know, in 3 years you're gonna, you know, marry your dream wife and have these kids and everything's gonna be perfect and like everything you ever want will be met and here's exactly how it's gonna go. Like, now the only thing you're gonna wish for is like to not know what's gonna happen.
I think this is a
tomorrow.
really important exercise to do. Take everything that you've ever, like, this is kind of what I do. Like, take everything that you ever wanted and just assume you're gonna get everything because you will. If you really want something, you'll get it. So what is everything that you want? Project out your life and figure out how you're gonna get all of it. You're gonna get all of it. Mm-hmm. Then project getting all of it. Oh my god, all your dreams came true. I never knew that all of my dreams would come true. It all happened. Oh, okay. How does the story look from the other side? Is there anything
we'd want to change. Okay. Oh yeah, there is something we'd want to change. I didn't really need to spend those 2 years playing PS4. So okay, we'll change the 2 years playing PS4, and we'll change a lot of other stuff too, and like kind of doing this like almost an editing process with the story that you see yourself on, and you
Yes.
slowly edit, and like over time it's like, oh yeah, like everything is,
And that's why I put. And that's
everything is
what-
fine.
Yes, but that's also why myself, and maybe you do too, I do put pressure on myself to make sure I'm doing the right thing, because I don't want to be doing things that I will look back and think that was a waste of
What
time.
happens when you think you're not doing the right thing?
Yeah, there's internal stress and conflict that is probably best to be avoided. But I want to
But
be.
at the same time, if you're really not doing the right thing, then perhaps it's good to have the internal stress that makes you do the right. I don't know, right?
But I think sometimes you end up questioning all the paths, and then you stay still because you're unsure which path is the right path. Which you should have some worry about that, because you don't want to go on the wrong
you don't
path.
want. Yeah. Like maybe the worry is good. Like I don't want to. There probably is a path that's wrong for me, and there's a difference between being worried if I am on the wrong path and trying my best to just do my best from here on out.
So now what if you could live forever? Now you have no fear of being on the wrong path for a few years.
Oh yeah, I can't wrap my mind around that desire. It's just like, oh well, what do you want to live forever to do? Okay, just do it now. Just do it now.
But you can't do it all.
I didn't say you could do it all, but what did you want to do when you live forever? And all right, the first few things you told me about. Let's
Right,
do
but
it
then
now.
you have the conflict of, is this the best use of my life? It eliminates that conflict of, am I doing the right thing?
If you're making a song, eventually you just make the song, and it's like, this is what my song sounds like, and like, is there a way to make it better? If so, yeah. I saw a quote, like, art is never attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. Art is never finished, only abandoned. There is no such thing as like the right answer. There's only getting more towards right. And is it the right path? If the answer in your mind is yes, then just hold that answer and keep asking the question periodically. But if it's not the right path, then that's great information. Change the path.
Sure. I still think it's fundamentally different when we have limited time. Like, I don't know. I might learn the next few, like, I'm probably never going to start painting at a high level. I don't paint, right? If I'm going to live forever, I might be like, sounds
I
fun.
think that the desire to live forever is the fear of being alive.
I'm not sure I follow.
Yeah, I could probably...
I love being alive, and that's why I want to not be alive. I just think life is so fucking interesting that why would I want it to stop? Your entire experience, your ability to even think these, like, sometimes
I
I
also
trip
think
out.
that living to like, let's say we could live to like 1,000 or something. That's also different than living forever.
Okay, maybe that's one thing that I just haven't articulated clear enough. Then I guess when I'm saying live forever, like, I don't even know if I'm thinking about, like, maybe you're thinking about it in a much more like real infinity way than I am. Obviously forever is forever, but I don't mean that you can't die. I just mean that, like, you could get hit by a bus, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're fucking invincible and you're gonna be running in traffic
By a
naked.
self-driving bus by
Yeah.
Google and the LiDAR didn't work and
Yeah.
they're gonna get sued.
Yeah, but just because I'm saying, oh, you'll live forever, doesn't mean you can, like, you know, go, like, take 1,000 hits of acid and jump off the Empire State Building. Like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
understand that.
yeah, and I think that alone still keeps the end in mind. Like, right now, do you feel like you're gonna die? I mean, you don't know what it's like to die. You've never died before.
But-
Statistically, you're not gonna die right now because you haven't died yesterday or the day before or the day before.
I mean, I feel like everything is slowly, I don't know.
This is a weird...
I feel like I'm gonna die because everyone ever has.
Sure, everyone ever has died. I agree. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to die. I'm pretty sure. I just think I don't think people reach a state where they're ready to die tomorrow. I think when people are faced with death, you have no choice but to accept it, and I think I would do the same. But I also think if right now somebody said I was going to die tomorrow, I would be kind of bummed.
I mean,
Would you not?
like, if I could like probably change it and like be like, please look, I'm really good at commit. Like, I'll make an argument. Like, what makes you think that I should die tomorrow? Like, give me a chance to try and make my argument. Like, if I had a way out, then I'd try. But if there was really no chance, then like, why would you be upset about it?
Well,
because
sure.
then you should just like have a good.
I would
extra
give in
day.
as well. I mean, I think death could be a really interesting experience, but I just think that I would rather have experience than no experience. And obviously, you won't know any different.
I just think that like all. It just seems to be like the way the world works.
It is the way the world
Yeah.
works. I am not.
Everything dies. Even like all learning is a type of dying to your past self.
It's like the Alan Watts quote I'm like obsessed with. It's like another botch quote, but it was like being obsessed with just your lifetime is like being obsessed with an inch. Which is completely true. And I get that. It's like we are, I mean, you could even say a millimeter, or you could even say, I mean, infinitely small. Like we are nothing. We are so meaningless. Like one of the first, I don't know, philosophical thoughts I ever got into was kind of like absurdism. Like I read like Albert Camus, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's like Albert Camus, but I think it's Albert Camus or something. I could be completely fucking wrong.
I think you're right.
Like The Stranger and just like absurdism and just how everything is just wildly out of your control and meaningless, which it is and it isn't. Like I'm all for trying to get meaning and impact while we're here, but ultimately it's infinitely small. Of course, and that's just part of it. But I just think experience. I think that our lives, or our soul, or our biology that is creating a sense of consciousness around us, our brain that is wired in such a way to make us think that we are here. That is more interesting than it's over, for me. And I think here's a thought that's weird. And I've thought this way for a while. And just the other day, this is gonna sound super weird, but like, it actually hit me with like a wave of anxiety, and I hadn't felt like anxiety like this in considerable time. Like I would say a few years, and it just like came over me in this weird sense, thinking about like death and stuff, which I like to think about actually. Like you know, for because in a lot of ways, I think it's a positive thing to think about. I think it turns on the clock. So it makes you want to squeeze everything you can, which is valuable. But I think there's a book that I have that I only read part of, but I remember seeing a documentary of it, and it's called The Denial of Death. It's kind of how like everything we do is kind of like an unaware avoidance of death in some way. And I just think death is something that we are so afraid of looking at all. Like, I think that everyone knows, oh, yeah, I'm going to die. But it's like...
What about you? Are you afraid of looking at it?
I think that I look at it, which is why I think about this a little more... I get a little more intense about this than maybe the average person. Because I think, I don't know, if I said this to basically everyone's like, well, duh, you're going to die. But, like, they never really, like, holy shit, your entire experience is going to end. Like, it's just... But you can get into this crazy headspace if you like really think about it. Like your ability to think that thought is going to end. Everything is going to end. Like your entire thing is over. It's all over. You're done. And you don't even like, and that's fine. It's not that I'm terrified of that. I think it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of part of it. I agree with you. But I think that people are not looking at that. I think everyone kind of,
But
in
we
the
can't
back.
control what people.
Sure,
look
but,
at.
but,
What
but
do you
we
look-
can control our conversation, and some people are thinking about it,
Yeah.
and I think most people have never really thought about their death, like just to realize like
But-
you're gonna
yeah.
be dead.
What makes you think that?
I don't know. It's just in me, but I think about it in that way.
What makes you think that most people don't think about it?
I think people would be talking about it more. I just think it would be. I think it
Yeah,
would
that's
be.
it.
I just mean we're just going on like fucking picking our plants and
But
like.
in a sense, we can't really control it. I mean, and like,
No,
why
but I
would
think it would
spend
give
any
people-
time? Like, I'm alive right now. Why would I spend time thinking about not being alive when I'm alive?
Because it brings more poignance to the moment.
Right.
For me, it's almost
It
like
is.
it's like
oh fuck yeah.
It's an intense.
It's like, wait, there's only 21 million bitcoins. Like, I'm really happy to have a bitcoin.
It's like
now.
an intense meditation for me. Like it's one of the only thoughts that will give me like chills to some extent, and it's not in a fear way. It's just to realize that this entire thing around us, this
Which
weird,
what is it? Right? I don't know.
this weird thing that we're in right now. Like not only are our bodies gonna start moving, not only are our bodies gonna stop moving, our entire experience of this is gonna not be there.
I just think it.
You're just trying to comprehend that.
I
is
think
strange.
part of what I think is that it's also just like I think it's a little bit naive to like fear death because how could we possibly know what happens? Like nobody
Sure.
knows what happens.
I think I want to clarify though. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I have a lot of fear around death.
Right.
I just think it is a wildly fascinating topic, and if people were really thinking about it, we would just stop and be like, what the fuck? This entire thing is going to be over. And I think most people, and again, maybe this is just my slightly cynical perspective of most people not being out of any boxes, back to the box, but I just don't think most people will stop to question it. And that's
But
why
if
most
people don't question it, then like it's impossible to like make people think about a certain topic. I think the only thing you can do is just think about it yourself and like think about
And
it.
that's what I'm trying to
how
do.
It spreads and
that's what I am
Yeah.
doing. If they don't want to think about it, that's fine. But I like to think about it, and I think that it's worthy of conversation.
for sure.
I think it's worthy of. I think somebody will maybe listen to this and just like spend 5 minutes of their day once just being like, "Holy fuck!" Like everyone like, duh, you're gonna die, but wait, you're gonna die.
It's like if
Does that
someone's
make
like,
sense?
all right, like Vons closes in 15 minutes. Like I know you have a long grocery list, but like Vons just closes in 15 minutes. Like we're gonna have to kick you out then. So like if you want to get stuff, just like get the most important stuff first, and then like
Right.
you also have to leave like 2 minutes to check out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, so I'll stop. I'm not going to be like, and I'm not saying you're doing it, but like, oh, Vons closes in 15 minutes. I wanted to be here forever. Like, what the fuck? I'll just be like, okay, like, it's so cool how they have like every single food here. Like, I'm just going to get the stuff I like.
And I think that was a good example of what I'm trying to articulate. It's not that I'm going to resist. It's that this is wildly fascinating, and we need to wake the fuck up while we're here because this shit is not forever. And
Yeah. And the best way you can do that is
and
just
look,
by
if you
waking
can
up
make
yourself.
and
There's
like
no way
and
to
look,
wake
if
anyone
Vons
else.
closes at 9 and you can convince them to close at 11, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you just need to make sure that the time you spend trying to convince them to quit. Yeah, I get that. I don't know.
I'm all for extending.
I just think
never
that
at the cost of
the
quality.
desire to extend. Like, what am I spending my attention on? Attention is, I really think it's what we get everything else. It's like the core resource. So, what are we spending our attention on? Is it trying to get more time or just trying to enjoy it right now more? Because honestly, like, I feel like if you really focus on the right now, then who cares about the years? Because that's how I feel. I feel like there's this, you're like, I want infinity, and I'm like, I think that we can kind of have infinity.
It's both. It's both. It's because thinking about how important death is makes the current contrast. It's like dark gray versus light gray compared to black and white. It's just more contrast. And if you articulate just how wild the death experience really is, it makes exactly what you just said, which is appreciating the current moment to its absolute depth. So it's not just like trying to hang on by a thread for eternity, but it's that this present moment is so cool and death is so different, and this is just cool.
It's just
And
like
I
that's
just
not
going
in
on.
front of me, and I'm not gonna look at it because I don't feel like looking at it. Like, I know it's gonna come eventually, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm just like interested in what's here, because it's not gonna be here forever. Like, everything falls apart eventually. So
I just find it wildly fascinating. That's really all there is to it.
I think everything's fascinating. Just to like, the only like to call anything normal, right? This is all just insane. Like, what happened? What are we? Like, we were just born, and like I kind of remember when I was 5. I don't really remember before that. Like, what the fuck is anything? Like, the ocean right there. Like, what is this? You're Sam. I'm Sam. You're Matt.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a great little point. Is
Well,
the same way I feel
they're like, oh, you have there's parents in this thing. Like, there's cars.
there's these squishy couches.
Like, what is anything? What
Yeah.
the fuck is anything?
See, that's me
and then that
24/7.
Right. But then that gets me to like, oh wow, like, why would I spend 2 years playing PS4 when I could just spend all years playing this thing? Like,
Yes.
it's a game, right? And I think that in anything, like, even in the poem, it's like, we ask and ask, but don't die to know. It requires a sort of death to get the answer to the question you're looking for, and it requires a sort of like surrender in order to reach a new level, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think death is just one example out of this. I think that people just don't face it. Whether it's death, whether it's how fucking crazy life is, whether it's the fact that the ocean is deep as fuck.
But what are we not facing? I know I've done this a few times, but I really think like what are people not facing? I don't know. They probably know. Like, we all. I don't. It's impossible for me to know what you're not facing. It's impossible for you to know what I'm not. Like, let's just figure out what we're not facing, because there's no difference between figuring out and solving the problem. Like, as soon as we really understand ourselves, then we solve it. So it's all just about understanding ourselves more, is what I think.
Yeah, I just personally wish that people would think of that question.
But how could you wish people to have a thought? This wish won't be granted. Like, you can't. Maybe you do. Maybe.
Okay,
I don't know.
I don't want to
I know
just
I'm kind of.
implant it.
I know I'm challenging.
I want to figure
but I'm
out how
interested.
to communicate that in such a way that they will find it themselves. I feel
And the best way to communicate it is just by
by doing
understanding
it.
yourself.
Yeah, by doing it.
Because by understanding the hoops in your own mind, then you're going to be able to talk about the hoops and be like, oh yeah, that hoop, I know it looks like a circle, but it's actually like a rounded rectangle. You know?
Yeah, I know that this is one of, and I know that we just go off on this topic because we have off the podcast many times.
Yeah.
And it's just something in my brain. Maybe it's just my dad is a pretty pessimistic person and has kind of like a pessimistic attitude, or maybe I just picked up some of that from him. But I just feel it. I just feel like I wish people would have these conversations. You know? I just wish they would.
No, I mean,
I wish there were more of us.
I would wish that too. I just don't think the wish is going to be, I would rather,
I
be
agree
the
with
change
you.
you want to see, you know?
Yeah, and I would argue.
And clearly,
I would argue I'm doing that, but
You
at the
are-
same
you
time, I
are-
just have
you
this
are.
like, you know, sure, like we
and
have
I fucking have it too.
we
you
have
know?
our tribes, and that's
I
amazing.
get anxious. I have anxiety. It's
so
like, fuck.
It's so incredible that with the internet, with YouTube, with podcasts, with Instagram, with whatever, we can find our tribes and find our people that we do resonate with, and that's amazing. And we go so deep on these obscure thoughts and topics, and we find people that think exactly the same way we do,
Right.
and we point the same directions, and we explore the same things.
Yeah.
But then you just look outside at the people around you, and you just don't. I just don't feel like they're.
Yeah, but you are those people in a certain sense. Like, if they don't see what you see, then I fucking promise you, like,
I don't see what they see.
No,
You're right.
but not only you don't see what they see, you don't see what someone else sees, and someone else is trying to communicate this to you already, but you're unable to understand the words.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what's happening.
Yeah.
People are communicating these profound ideas to us, and we're like, okay, because we don't understand the words. And the top thing that we can do is just to focus on listening and like understanding. Like, man, taking an improv class has changed my life because I just had to really focus on like listening. And I've learned that like the best way to listen is not to be like, I'm listening, but just to listen.
But what about people that just don't listen? What about people that just?
But why are people
Why am I fixated on that?
like, why is it your responsibility for somebody not listening? The best way is to like.
I feel like I am on a trajectory to be some sort of leader on some level.
You are a leader. You're already a leader. I think that, like, I think it's a Mark Manson thing, is like, the best way to teach people how to trust is to trust them. The best way to teach people how to listen is to listen to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Once again, as the souvenir would say, like, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path.
you are.
Just sometimes I want to go faster.
No, man, I get that. I get that. Even like,
I want a brighter flame. I want a longer wick. I want, like, the little.
like, all right.
Wait, a longer wick.
4-inch wick.
A longer wick.
Can we get that wick longer? It doesn't glow as much. Totally fine if it doesn't
What's the
glow as
girth
much.
of the wick?
Yeah, we want it to be bigger. Yeah, I made this a list of just a bunch of things I need in a wick. So as long as we can just check everything off.
Organic.
That,
Can't be.
yeah, I mean, I remember
recycled materials.
back in the day we had wicks in my house, and I want to feel like I did when I was. So I'm buying wicks. And yeah, oh my god, it's 300 Bitcoin for one wick. I'm out.
This episode is brought to you by Wix.com.
The easiest way
To build a
buy wicks online for any type of candle. We have wooden wicks, string wicks. We have wicks that make the flickering noise the entire time it's burning, which to some is annoying, but some people are into that. Go to Wix.com, WICKS.com.
Wix.com/Wix, because that's an X and then a CKS.
Oh my god. WIXXX.com. Wix.
Why do you think they named it that? Were they having these thoughts?
They were like, yeah, there's a 3-letter domain available. We just got an email. It's only $5,000.
A Wix? That sounds kind of cool.
Oh, let's do it. Let's call it. What should we do? What about a website builder?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I saw one that was really valuable. Like, maybe we could just copy it.
Yeah. Let's make it like Squarespace.
Yeah.
But we'll change up the designs and the colors.
Make it like $1 cheaper, a little shittier.
Yeah. We'll advertise on different podcasts. Are good. There's this one I heard. There's these. It's like these two guys that I think they're like entrepreneurs. I forget exactly, but it's called Thoughts from Spacebach. It's really good. We could probably.
What is it about?
It's like hard to describe. It's kind of like
It's not really about anything.
imagine just like two people talking and like just like I don't know. There's like these guys are friends with each other and they have conversations. It's I would just listen to it. But the point is that I think that we could really get a lot of value from advertising on the podcast.
Definitely a lot of ROI.
All right, let's do it. What? Oh my god, 2:11.
We didn't start right at the beginning. but
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to like end right now, but like we'll wind down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're definitely hitting our stride with this.
Yeah, I feel.
I think this is the best
interesting to
episode so
think.
far.
It's hard for me to really like remember. I mean, I was happy with. I've been happy with him so far, but
I think we've
Yeah,
gotten progressively
it's-
better. Like,
we're getting practice talking to each other. You
Yeah.
know, it's different. Just like being friends, seeing each other, and talking
Yeah.
to each other. Whereas like
I mean, with really any of my friends, I have never sat down and had like a 2-hour conversation with them, like sitting across on the couch, like putting our phones away. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, I'm really glad. Like, talk about doing things for yourself, right? Like, who knows what'll happen with this podcast, but
yeah, dude.
man, like every week we get to do this. Like,
Podcast?
fuck.
Dude, it's so good. Ooh, yeah, like kind of how you asked me, like, what is progress? What am I really trying to do? Like, I've had sort of people that are helping me with business, like, be like, well, same thing. What are you really trying to do? Like, what really is your goal? And part of it is just to do more of what I want, right? And I remember I said to you is like, before starting this podcast, it's like, well, I've already sort of told my audience that I want to start like the Matt Loberstein show type of interview podcast, and now we're starting this podcast, and then like a week ago I was like, or maybe 2 weeks ago to now, I was like, holy shit, like, you know, that'd be a big time commitment, you know, like I mean, that'd be basically 2 days out of the week that are devoted to 2 different podcasts, and I was like, holy fuck, like, I don't know if I'm gonna have time for that. But the more I think about it, maybe that is the direction of just more freedom for myself. How fucking awesome would that be for 2 days out of my week to just, one day I talk to you for 3 hours, and another day I talk to some person I've maybe met before or maybe never met before that is hyper interesting. Like, maybe that's a really awesome thing. But my mind immediately went to like, oh my God, like 2 days out of 7 is going to be committed to podcasts. Like, it's podcasts.
If you spend all that time being present, then how is there going to be time for doing tasks?
Yeah, is podcast the right use of my time? Because I'm gonna die someday. I'm not gonna live forever, so I need to think about these 2
When
days.
the email is going to get sent if I spend 2 hours a week, 2 days a week studying podcasts, and the emails are going to pile up, and I'm just going to be this podcaster and nothing else.
But maybe that's fucking awesome. You know, maybe my life in 2 years is I'm just running YouTube, a couple podcasts, and I have a couple businesses on the side, and like maybe that's just my thing. Maybe it's not like I'm some big shot fucking CEO of major.
Maybe
corporate,
you're gonna end up with an audience of like 300 people that love what you're doing. I'm not saying this will happen, but like, there's just any path. This is sort of the realization that I made. I was like, oh, like first I wanted to build Card Buddy into this like huge phone wallet company, and then like after a certain amount of time, it just hit me. I was like, oh, like I didn't really want that. And now it's like, well, what do I want? What are my goals? I don't know. Like, I'm not focused
You're right to
on
not know.
anything, but I'm just focused on like trying to do things that make me feel inspired and make me feel present. And like, I fucking promise you, like, the best songs are because you didn't know where it was heading. The best movies are because you didn't know where it was heading, but then it just somehow the meaning crossed over and you found this gem from 5 different angles, and it's like, oh, well, of course. And this is like, I think especially nowadays in the like world of technology, there's not an emphasis placed on faith, because people associate faith with like dogmatic religion, but faith is not dogmatic religion. Faith is kind of like the Aubrey Marcus quote that I read, is believing that everything will work out. And I don't like, not trying to direct the movie and write the script before doing it, but just being in the movie and having faith that the movie is written for you, and if you do what feels like the right move, then you will, like, even like moving to LA, like it was like an intuitive thing. It's like, I think that like based on like even based on music I had heard, like I didn't have any good friends or family that lived in LA, but I heard a lot about California and like movies, and I don't know, just like the general vibe that I thought might be here. Mm-hmm. And I moved here, and you know, nothing is ever as we expected. Things are always different, but I'm really happy I did, because there that little intuition thing, like, it didn't know exactly what was gonna come, but it just had a sense. And the more I do things, the more I'm like, oh, there's this little like nose inside my mind that's just like smelling. And when you smell something, you're not exactly sure of like why it's tempting you to go in this direction, but you just like go, and like not trying to like, it's the matter of like self-consciousness. Like when I'm thinking about if I'm going in the right direction, that's self-consciousness. But if I'm just going, if I'm just dancing, if I'm just like singing, if I'm just like being,
then it's not gonna cross my mind. So I think that like it's not a matter of like right now you hear me saying this and it's like, okay, like all right, like just following the intuition. It's like it's a constant thing with me too, right? Like we're always forgetting stuff, always slipping from this state to that state. It's like much more of just constant reminders. Like you don't get good at anything in one day. It's just constant reminders. And I think that with enough of that practice, like if you really are living according to this thing that's going to bring you what you want, then if you do it, then it's going to start bringing what you want, and it's going to be easier and easier.
Yeah.
I think
I'm trying to do the same. Just
faith.
Just follow what you're drawn towards.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you take issue with something that I kind of take issue with. Not issue, that's a bad word. But I'm skeptical of people that just think they know their passion, mission, like meaning of life. I'm skeptical of it. I just think that we're always evolving and drawn towards new things. We're always sniffing. We always get a new scent. And
well, you're right to be skeptical, right? There's like
because when you said you started it, you said like it was at the end of the last topic before you went into that. You were saying like I don't know what I want next, or I don't know what to do, or I don't know what I'm doing. And like that's the only answer, because I'm just skeptical of people that think they know exactly what they're doing.
Right,
because how can you know exactly what you're doing?
But you're right.
Yeah.
And you're right, and nobody knows exactly what they're doing, and nobody can know exactly what they're doing or have scripted the path, or I have this goal by 2019, I want to make this, and then by 2022 I want to have this. Like, yeah, it can feel fun to say I'm going to have $500 million by 2022, and maybe if I really wanted to I could, but it's like
but those are
it
goals.
just provides this like false sense of certainty. And I'll bring it back, like I think I really think it's like the thing that I try to do with myself is like, that this person seems like, are you saying basically like a front of having it all figured out?
Maybe they don't even have it figured out, but they just have a mission. It's not that they have goals.
I would say I have a mission.
Do you have one clearly defined mission?
I think that like love, to put it
okay.
in one
Yeah,
way.
I mean that's
love, connection, acceptance, presence.
then that's broad, and that works.
But I don't think it's broad.
I do think it's broad because it applies in so many ways. Like, for example,
in so many ways, but yeah,
you know, I can think of examples, but I'd be like calling people out directly. Like, I don't want to use somebody's example.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But let's say like,
not that you were going to. Yeah.
I'll just use it like a generic. Like there's a lot of people maybe on, say like even business people, entrepreneurs. They're like, I won't even use a specific example. Just my mission is to help X type of person create Y for themselves, and it's just like this one mission, and it's like too specific. Like whereas like you say love, to me that's like that is just that's just the whole thing, and that makes sense. But to say that like your mission in life is to help entrepreneurs realize that they need to think about these other issues, that's too specific. There's an example, because that's something we're doing right now, right?
I think that everyone is like, here's the thing, by the fact that you see it this way, you are right. I mean, you are making these observations, and you do have some insight into the way other people are doing things, and you learn about yourself that way. It's like, oh, okay, like, because you can understand that, you can understand the desire to do this, and like, you know, maybe people do have it figured out in ways that we don't realize, and maybe there's things to learn from that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think that everyone is just like on their own path, and they're like, we've all had different experiences that have brought us to different ways, and you know, if someone is really like has these goals that are like so like tunnel driven, and like they're ignoring their other needs, then eventually, like if you're running towards a wall, you're eventually gonna hit it. And in that sense, it's like it's not my responsibility to make sure people don't hit walls. I mean, I'll definitely be like, hey, like I think there might be a wall coming. Like, I know you don't see a wall, but like there might be a wall coming.
That's the thing is that
Yeah.
I see that they're going to have to change course because it's just not.
But we've all been wrong before. It's,
Yeah.
I really think it's like, where is the focus? Is it going on? Like, I just think that this focus is like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? In what ways are we in the same box? Because we are in some ways. It's like the only thing we can't. It's interesting how this is becoming a little bit of a theme here, but like we can only control the boat that we're driving.
Yeah. But we can send smoke signals and like.
No, yeah.
We have compasses. We have like landmarks.
Yeah. Do you think we should?
Wrap up.
Yeah. So we could do Twitter again.
Twitter.
Oh.
We could. I was also gonna say
Yeah.
is just because this will be the third published episode, right?
Yeah.
So let's assume that by the third episode there are people listening.
Good point.
So maybe we should address the people outside our box.
What should we say?
I don't know. Like I'm just thinking. Like, is there any area we want to create for continued conversation? Is there any is there a plan? Is there a future? Is there?
Let's wait until we like release the first one. Like see what.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
That's true.
I don't know.
But there will be people listening by now, so I mean we're open
Yeah.
to feedback.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. And
Really appreciate it.
I don't know, let us know if you have thoughts or ideas or just any comments.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
Should we try Twitter or the last one was the greatest ever?
Oh yeah, we could try that again. Let's think. Are there any other? Because the first one I was like, what's something you believe? I think Twitter was fun because it was like, yeah, let's do Twitter.
There's so much pressure for it to be like
No,
half as good.
there's no pressure.
Okay.
All right. You start.
The
Time
I
went
to
the
store
in
my
brother's.
car
I
almost
ran
over
a
squirrel.
because
I
didn't
think
my
car
would
swerve
fast,
enough.
but
My
check engine
check engine light
broke.
so
My
car
swerved.
into
The
squirrel.
hashtag.
Tragedy.
Oh god.
That made less sense than last time. All right.
Alright, that's it. I guess we're good. Whew.